everybody's operating on scarce resources, right? No matter how much money you've raised and all of that, like everybody's putting money to work toward an objective. And the engineers, generally speaking, that get hired are there to build product, right? Or product capabilities. They're not there to unlock FP&A capabilities, right? Now, there may be some bandwidth periodically, or there may be a strategic initiative in the organization where you can get some of those resources dedicated, but you're often not getting the people who want to spend their time building product and are critical to that product development capacity, at least not a large chunk of their time, right? So you're dealing with this problem where you have these technical challenges as an FP&A person in an organization with a bunch of people who, from a skill set standpoint, could help you with that, but they have their priorities, and there's not a lot of direct ROI from a product development or a sales standpoint to building out a very rich internal FP&A and finance data model, right, or data architecture. So finance often doesn't get the resources that it might with respect to internal help with data, truly kind of stemming into the engineering side of data, whether it's from a data science standpoint, data architecture, moving data around, writing APIs back, to move data around, those sorts of things. Automation of tasking. Those are all things that engineers within an organization could help with, but they have their own stuff to focus on as well. And if you're going to put $1 of investment into engineering and you're a software company or a product company, you want to see your product get better, and that is the right decision, generally speaking, with respect to investing in engineers. But we can't ignore the fact that finance is being asked to do more and more from a data standpoint, and organizations are being expected to leverage their data in a more and more rich and meaningful way. And those two things are at odds with each other. You're under investing in the data capacity, while the need for the data, the demand for the data, and what needs to come from it in terms of mining it is growing. We run into this quite a bit where, an organization has decided to dedicate a technical resource to building an integration to a general ledger system and putting the data back together. That technical resource goes off and does good technical work, kind of pulling the data together. They get it 98, 99% of the way there in terms of reconciling back to the general ledger. But 98, 99% accuracy, as you alluded to, Matt, is not sufficient for finance, right? If we're going to leverage that data, we need to have confidence that it's correct, right? And oftentimes what ends up happening is organizations get stuck there. And the reason they get stuck there is that there isn't anybody on the finance side who has enough technical knowledge to help bridge the gap between what they want from a financial output standpoint and what's needed from a technical standpoint in order to bridge that gap. So there isn't somebody on the finance side who knows who's an expert on the financial data and what they need from it, but who can speak enough of the language from a technical standpoint to help that data scientist or BI, engineer get the 1% to 2% more that they need in terms of the accuracy to get it to a solution that is accurate, scalable, repeatable, and leverageable in the context that finance is trying to use the data. And then the flip side of that is that it's very hard to find a data scientist who, as you alluded to, that understands how general ledger systems work. And I don't mean how they work from a back-end database or object structure standpoint. I mean how they work to put all your transactions together into a detailed trial balance that reconciles to your general ledger and is accurate at every transaction all the way up through cumulative translation adjustment and the more nuanced aspects of a balance sheet and how that interacts with the income statement. And then how do you get to a cash flow statement from that data, and staging it all in a way that actually it enables you to produce those statements off of the data. If something's off by, let's say I've got a $100 million budget and I've got a $100,000 variance, or $100 million of expenses in the year, and I've got a $100,000 variance. I'm not concerned so much that, I mean, $100,000 is a lot of money, right? But on a percentage basis, it's a small percentage variance to the total. The fear I always have is, and the reason I won't use something unless it reconciles exactly, is that I can't be confident that that $100,000 is not a netting of $10 million in one direction and $9.9 million in the other direction. And so as soon as I take that data set that's only off by $100,000 in total, and I start to drill down and analyze the business, I might see huge swings that are just coincidentally offsetting each other. And then I'm in big trouble, right? Because now I can't do anything with that data. So as soon as I see something, and this is true of most finance people, as soon as I see something that doesn't reconcile, everything stops. I don't care if it's $1, $10, $1,000, $1 million, it's all the same to me, because if it doesn't reconcile, I can't be confident that it's accurate at any level. The one thing I always tell my teams is your job is not to produce information, it's to produce insight about that information, which requires you to anticipate the questions that are going to come and be able to answer them or answer them proactively, right? So my job in FP&A is not to send out income statements and balance sheets and hope I don't get questions back, right? My job is to understand the performance of the business down to the atomic unit of the business, right? Maybe that's a contract, maybe it's a transaction, things like that. And if I don't have the data available to me to analyze the business down to that unit and aggregate it up to the information that I am sending out with the analysis and the insight about that information, then I'm not fully realizing my potential. The problem generally is that processes are so manual that just getting the information out takes all the time, right? But if all you're doing is sending information out, maybe with a little bit of light analysis, but your tool set and your processes and your data architecture don't allow you to efficiently understand the layers below the information that you send out, such that you can quickly identify things that are happening that are in line with expectations, out of line with expectations, those sorts of questions that are the next level of, okay, this is what happened, but what do we think about that? And why did it happen? Then I'm just not achieving my potential value creation at the company. So my priority in those situations is, how do I make sure I have the information available all the way down to the lowest level, so that when I'm when I'm doing my reporting, it's easy for me to drill into that data in the environment that I'm working in. I'm not flipping back and forth between a bunch of systems and exporting a bunch of reports and having to figure out, one question or one problem at a time. I want that data set to be the asset that I sit upon with which to do my work. And if I can't do that and I'm having to bounce around, it's indicative of a problem that is presenting itself by through the means of, I'm just able to get the information out, right? And if that's the case, I know questions, if the information I'm sending out is compelling in any way, shape, or form, I know questions are going to come back. And those questions are going to come back with the expectation that it's not going to take me another day to figure out the answer to those questions, right? I should have either anticipated those questions, or I should be in a situation where, with my systems and technologies and processes and my time spent analyzing the information before I send it out, that I can quickly respond to those questions.